Hello, and a big warm welcome to the Guardian Doula's Diary podcast. My name is Angela Deuce, or Angie. I'm your host and the founder of Guardian Doula. I'm a certified birth and postpartum doula and childbirth educator based on Sydney's Northern Beaches and serving women and their families all throughout Sydney. This podcast is an honest collection of the stories and experiences of birthing women and the professionals that support them to empower, equip, and inspire us all. Let's get into it. Alrighty, welcome back to the podcast. Before we dive in, I need to apologize for a couple of things. The first is my voice. I was supporting a client last night at her labour and she had the most beautiful birth, but that's the reason that my voice sounds so weird. It sounds like I'm sick, which I'm actually not at all, but I think just the all-nighter has made my voice sound a little bit weird. So sorry about that. I hope it's not too annoying to listen to. The second thing is that you probably throughout this recording are going to hear all kinds of chaos and noise coming from the upstairs of my house, because as I sit here recording this, my mom is looking after the kids upstairs so that I can have the capacity and the space and the time to record this. But it's just going to still be super loud. And I thought about like going away and finding somewhere super quiet to record. And then I was like, do you know what? This is why I haven't been super consistent uploading the podcast lately, because I think I've got perfection paralysis, where you don't move until something's perfect. Oh, there they go. I'm sure you can hear the footsteps now. Right on cue. But yeah, I'm just going to pare it back, keep it simple. Like honestly, the heart behind this podcast was really just to bring stories and information to women who are having their babies so that you can just go into your birth feeling better about it and being equipped with really good information. So I'm just not going to overcomplicate it. And yes, so enjoy the chaotic sounds of my kids in the background. Hopefully it doesn't take away from this too much. But all that aside, the topic of today's episode is something that I actually teased about a little bit the other day on my Instagram stories, where I posted being like, guys, I have been thinking about this mental game that is in birth and pregnancy and, this mental game of having babies that people are not talking about. It's really uncommonly spoken about. And I think it's really well known that birth itself is a real mental game. Like everyone knows that, everyone says that. You picture yourself in labor having contractions and you know that it is a mental game. You've got to be calm and in your zone and stay focused and manage the intensity of labor. Doing that whole thing, it's a mental game. We all know that. But I think there's a mental game that is almost equally as important. And I say almost because I think it's kind of not, but it is a very, almost like a close second, I guess. And that mental game is the end of pregnancy. And I say that because most of the time my clients come to me because they really want to have a low to no intervention birth. They want to go through birth as a rite of passage, not as a super medicalized event. And so a lot of women come to me and it's kind of become my specialty over the years is helping women have these really natural, unmedicated, low intervention births. And so what I have found over the years, the more that I focus on that, I feel like I'm almost now specialized in unmedicated birth and in water birth and just low intervention birth has become kind of the thing that women come to me for. And I still totally take on women who are like, oh, I want the epidural straight away. I'm not going to send you away because you want the epidural. But I think certainly my expertise and my real edge as a doula is that women come to me because they really want to experience unmedicated, natural birth. And because of that, over the years, I have definitely made some observations and I have kind of figured out if you want to call them puzzle pieces, I feel like I've figured out what the puzzle pieces are to women getting that outcome or not getting that outcome. And I can put it down to a few different things. And one of the most significant things is the way that you do the mental game at the end of pregnancy. And what I essentially am saying is whether or not you cave and book an induction for no reason. Which I know that sounds so heavy to say. And also, I just want to do a quick disclaimer. Obviously, there is totally a place for induction of labor. I am not by any means saying that labor never should be induced. Of course, I'm not saying that. There is a place for an induction of labor. But what we see statistically at the moment is absolutely shocking, sky-high rates of induction, really for no medical reason whatsoever. And it's a whole separate episode in and of itself that I could do about induction and, being induced for just arbitrary things like going over your due date. That is absolutely not a reason to have an induction of labor. And statistically, we see that being induced leads to much higher rates of intervention. It leads to higher rates of cesarean section. You can listen to the Great Birth Rebellion episodes on induction and you'll see what the research is. The host of that podcast, in case you haven't heard of it, it's Melanie Jackson, who is a midwife with her PhD. So she knows a thing or two about research, and she picks apart the research around induction and anyway. It's a different topic for another day, but go and listen to those episodes if you haven't already, because they are amazing and they will definitely support what I'm saying in this episode, which is that one of the best ways that you can set yourself up for a low to no intervention birth is to wait for labor to start on its own. And this is something that I absolutely say to my clients. And I think everybody sits around at 20 or, 31, 32, 33, even 38 weeks pregnant saying, I'm going to be so chill at the end of pregnancy and I'm not going to cave. I'm just trust my body and I trust the process. And I know that my body will go into labor when my baby's ready. But that's really hard to stick to that narrative when you're like 41, 42 weeks in. But this is just a little pep talk to tell you are not waiting in vain. Your body will go into labor. And unless there is an actual medical thing going on, maybe your placenta isn't working as well as it once was, which just because you are a certain gestation, that doesn't just automatically happen. That's something that needs to be diagnosed formally. Your placenta doesn't expire when you reach a certain gestation. There's also an episode about that on the Great Birth Rebellion. But this is basically just a super quick pep talk to say that waiting for spontaneous labor to start is one of the best ways that you can set yourself up if you would like to have an unmedicated birth. And that's definitely what the research says, and it's a really hard mental game, and it's hard to not cave at the end of pregnancy and just book the induction. But yeah, let this be your pep talk that you can wait it out. You've got this. Your baby will come when they're ready. And I think the end of pregnancy when you're tempted to book an induction is one of the most important mental games to play really well. And it absolutely, statistically and in my experience, I've seen that it impacts birth outcomes. So wait it out, mama. Your baby will come and there's no rush. You don't need to stress about whether or not you're past your due date. Unless there is a genuine medical reason to be induced, being induced just because you've gone past your due date, it's such a bad idea, and all the research supports it. So having said that, I think it's probably helpful to end this episode with a couple of tips and tricks around how you can play that mental game at the end of pregnancy really well, right? And kind of not get to the point that you're about to cave. And I just want to put my hand up and be the first to admit that I also find this really hard. Like, if you know me, you know that I have 4 little babies, and my first 3 babies actually all came before my due date. They came between kind of 37 and 38 weeks, the first 3. And then when I was pregnant with my 4th, I made the mistake that I warn everyone not to make. And I was like, because I went early all 3 times, I'm probably going to go early again. And I assumed that I was not going to make it to my due date. And so I was only like 38 weeks and I was already thinking, okay, where is this baby? Like, I am over it. And I was nowhere near, the end of the pregnancy. Like, I didn't know that this was going to be the pregnancy that I would go way over my due date. I just assumed that because I went early the first 3 times, that was my story. That was my gestation. My body just like naturally always went into labor early. And, there's just no hard and fast rules. Like, for some women, they always go early. For some women, they always go late. And then I think for other women, there's a real mixed bag, and there's no hard and fast thing. What I'm trying to say is that just because you go early or late once or twice or 3 times doesn't necessarily mean that that is your pattern always. But I made this mistake where I just told myself, okay, great, I'm going to go early because that's just what my body does. And oh my goodness, I got to 40 weeks and I was so tempted to just book an induction. Me, knowing what I know, I have seen time and time again that one of the best ways that you can set yourself up for an unmedicated birth is to not freaking medicate your birth. Like, I know this. If anyone knows this, it is me. And even I was so tempted at the end of pregnancy to just book the induction. And I didn't end up doing it. I'm so glad I didn't. My baby ended up coming, I think, I don't know, like after 41 weeks or something. But yeah, even I've felt this temptation. So I just want to like give you a big hug. If this is you and you're listening at the end of pregnancy and you are feeling really over it, I get it. And I'm sending you so much love, because it is just the most bizarrely frustrating feeling. Like, you know that your body, knows what to do and that you will eventually go into labor. But it's really, really hard to be at the end of pregnancy and not know when the day will finally come. You are excited to meet your baby. You're excited to just not be pregnant anymore. If you're struggling to sleep at night, or if you're having aches and pains and your body's hurting and whatever, like you're over it. You're ready to meet this baby. And so I'm sending you lots of love if that is you, because I know how hard that is. But I think some tips that I really think can be helpful are, number one, to just get into your head from as early as you possibly can that your due date means nothing. Like, it literally means pretty much nothing. And there is so much research to support this. Go and listen to the due dates episode of the Great Birth Rebellion podcast. Your due date is seriously so arbitrary. Like, depending on the length of your cycle, depending on how accurate your scan was, the dating scan, depending on when you ovulated within that cycle, like there's so many variables that influence when your baby decides to come. So many variables. And so reading into your due date and being annoyed that you're 41 weeks pregnant or 42 weeks or whatever, like, you might not even be at that gestation. We don't know. Like, it's really a guess. A lot of midwives call it a guess date, for good reason, because it really is just a guess. So I think that's the first thing to say, is that your due date really doesn't mean a whole lot at all. You might be, in air quotation marks, 39 weeks or 40 weeks, but maybe you're actually only 37 or 8 weeks. Like, we don't know. So I think that's the first thing to say, is that your due date may not even be accurate at all. And then I think the second thing to say is that whatever due date you are given, right? Let's say, I don't know, you get told, okay, you are due on the 1st of August, for example. So if you are 40 weeks on the 1st of August, my advice to you would be, tell yourself that your due date is whenever you are like 42 weeks, right? So tell yourself in your head, my due date is the 15th of August. Like, just gaslight yourself a little bit and like try and trick yourself. I know it sounds so silly, because obviously you know that your due date that you were given is actually the 1st of August. But if you just tell yourself, oh, I am only due around the 15th of August, mid-August. If you just tell yourself that, then like anything before then feels like an absolute bonus. And I know it just seems like such a silly thing, but really I know a lot of my clients have actually found that really helpful, where if they just tell themselves like, oh, I'm only due, whenever they are 42 weeks, their whole mindset is so different. I recently had a mum who, it was her 3rd baby, and she did this. She was like, I'm just only telling myself that I'm, expecting a baby around the 42-week mark. And like, you still have everything organized and ready. But she ended up going into labor at 41 weeks. And she was like, oh my goodness, if I had like not told myself that I was due when I was 42 weeks and I had gone to 41, I would have been so annoyed. Like, this trick really, really worked for her. And I know like everyone has a different personality type and, whatever. It may not work for you, but I think it's a really good trick. And if I was going to have another baby, I would absolutely be playing this game with myself. I would be telling myself that I'm only due when I'm 42 weeks. And I also, this is my next tip, I would be giving out a very, very vague due date. When friends and family are talking to you about when baby's due, it just becomes the topic of conversation. Like, even random strangers, you run into someone at the shops and they're like, oh, when are you due? Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just, people just ask you when they see that you're pregnant, they'll ask you like, oh, when are you due? I would be giving out, so let's say your due date is the 1st of August. I would never say to someone, oh, yep, the 1st of August. Just say, oh, sometime in August. Or make a comment like, well, sometime in August, but really, like, these babies don't know their due date. They just come whenever they come. So we'll see, we'll see when baby decides, or even, don't even say the month. Like, if someone asks you, just be like, oh, whenever they decide to come. Like, because the pressure that can be put on you sometimes by very well-meaning family and friends who are just excited, like they're happy for you and they're excited and they'll say like, how much longer do you have to go? I would just respond to that being like, oh, nobody knows. I guess we'll find out. Time will tell. Like those are the phrases that I think are most helpful to respond to those questions with, because otherwise you will get a million text messages. My clients all tell me that this is so annoying, and I found it so annoying too. You get to your due date and everyone's texting you, oh, any news? How are you feeling? Like, they're just all trying to suss out when the baby is going to come. And you don't know that. No one knows that. And it can really, I don't know, maybe you're listening to this when you're only like 20 weeks in and you're like, no, that wouldn't put any pressure on me. That wouldn't annoy me. But oh my gosh, I am telling you, it does. It really does. And if you are one of the very, very few women who that doesn't annoy, then like, wow, that's amazing. And I want to figure out how you don't get annoyed by that. But like, I think the majority of women find that really hard. And so I think that's my second tip, is just do not give out your actual due date. Just be really, really vague. You don't have to lie, but you just don't have to give out the details. Yeah. Then my next tip is when you do get to the end of pregnancy. I actually had another third-time mom who just recently gave birth, and she went to 42 weeks. And she went much earlier than that with her first two, but for whatever reason, her third baby just needed that extra time in there. And she also was so tempted to just book an induction. Like, it's hard, guys. This mental game is hard. And that's why I'm doing a podcast episode on it, because the time will probably come at the end of your pregnancy, whether it comes at 39 weeks or 41 weeks. I don't know when it will come for you, but the time definitely tends to come for most women where they are feeling a little bit frustrated and a little bit over it at the end of their pregnancy. And so this mum, what I said to her, especially as she was nearing 42 weeks, she was like, oh my gosh, I'm tempted to book an induction. Like, what can I do to like help myself hold out and just wait patiently? My advice to her was get your diary out and book something in every single day that is fun and exciting that you can have to look forward to. Do not make the mistake of like canceling all your plans and booking absolutely nothing in, and every day just waking up and all you have planned to do that day is just waiting for the baby and seeing if they come. I just think that is such a sure way to feel frustrated and disappointed if you don't go into labor that day. I reckon one of the best things you can do, and this is definitely what I had to do at the end of my fourth pregnancy when I was like, what the heck? Why didn't I go early? I found this really helpful. So I would just book in, let's say, I would say, okay, on Saturday when my husband's off work, we're going to go on a little family adventure. We're going to go and do a bushwalk somewhere just outside of Sydney, drive an hour away. It's not so far that you're going to, go into labor and then have to like rush back to your house or whatever. But little adventure, book that in, or book in like a lunch with a friend or a walk with a friend or a dinner with some friends or whatever it might be. Book in a beach day, book in something, a date night, a massage, a chiropractor session, like anything that you can look forward to, a manicure. Like, oh my gosh, you could sit down and think of so many different ideas, put it into ChatGPT, like just come up with a list of ideas, of things that you can put in and literally schedule something fun every single day, around your due date, so that you just have things to look forward to, and then you're not frustrated if you didn't go into labor. And then, if you do go into labor, great, you just cancel the thing. It's not a big deal, just cancel. But it just means that you're not sitting around twiddling your thumbs, being annoyed that you're not in labor, which again, it sounds ridiculous that you would get to that point, but I am telling you, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just something that happens. So do that. Just book in some things that you can look forward to and be excited about. Don't give out your actual due date, and just tell yourself that you will probably go to 42 weeks. Just do me a favor, do yourself a favor, just do it. You will thank me later. Yeah, I think those are my top tips. I mean, maybe the fourth tip could just be like, trust your body. Your body is so clever. It is well designed. It knows when to go into labor. The very thing that puts you into labor is that your baby releases a protein that your body then recognizes and goes, oh, okay, baby's ready. Let's now release a whole bunch of oxytocin and put ourselves into labor. Like, your baby really is in charge, and that's a good thing. You don't want your baby to come before they are ready, before their major organs are fully developed, before they've got enough fat on them. Like, your baby will come when they are ready. And of course, there's exceptions to this. I know some babies come, when they're premature. But for the most part, generally speaking, the baby comes when the baby's ready. And so just take a deep breath, even now as you're listening to this, big deep breath, and remind yourself, connecting with your baby, even like put your hand on your stomach as you're listening to this, connecting with your baby, and tell your baby, I trust you. I love you. I will wait for you. You come when you're ready, and I'm here to be patient and to work with your timeline. I think the biggest gift you can give your baby is just that time, and to be patient. And the biggest gift you can give yourself, like it's so beautiful, the process of going into spontaneous labor, laboring, and just, experiencing that. Like, big love if you are listening, maybe if you had a cesarean the first time that you might not have wanted, or an induction that you might not have wanted the first time or the second time or whatever. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I wish I could have experienced that, I'm sending you so much love. But yeah, I think what I'm saying is that if you are healthy, if all is well with the pregnancy, then it is just so worth waiting for spontaneous labor. It really is. And the research would agree. I think a lot of women's experience would agree. So yeah. Here is your pep talk. Your baby will come, and just, you can play the waiting game. You can do it. It's hard. It's a hard mental game, but you can play it. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a rating or a comment, and I can't wait to see you back here for the next one.